Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another amazing episode of The Basement, where we like to talk about things theologically, practically, and hilariously. My name is Tristen.
And my name's Ezra.
And today we have another episode continuing on the book of 1 Samuel.
Part
3.
of book.
I forgot. It should be book 8 or 9.
Samuel does not have 9 books.
No, the 9th book of the Bible.
I know, but like Samuel 1, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel.
Yeah, I said
3
I
of
said
1 Samuel.
I said 1 Samuel in the beginning.
Okay.
I said 1 Samuel at the beginning, man.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking like I'm running out of fruit snacks.
Oh. Today? Or just
now.
Oh.
I ate all 4 packages.
4?
Yes.
Why?
Because I'm Ezra.
Your answer to everything.
No. Most things, just not everything.
Oh, okay. Fine. Well, guys, pray for Ezra. He needs more fruit snacks. But today, we are going to be finishing the book of 1 Samuel. And for the beginning of 1 Samuel to where we are now, Saul was made the first king of Israel. And then Saul did some bad things, disobeying God. Then God said, "You're no longer my anointed king." Then he went to Samuel and said, "Hey, Samuel, go anoint another king." So he goes and finds David. David's now the new anointed king of Israel.
And he plays harp.
Lyre, specifically.
No, I'm not lying. He plays a thing that's like a harp.
Called a lyre.
No, I'm not a liar.
Lyre. It's called a lyre.
I'm not a liar.
I know you're not a liar. It's an instrument called a
know.
lyre.
I know. I'm being funny.
And David plays that to calm Saul, because Saul has a evil spirit that is attacking him and torturing him, and David's music helps calm him down. And then Saul raises up David to higher ranking within his army, and then David becomes really good at his job. Saul becomes jealous, and then Saul wants him dead, and tries to kill him like at least 3 times with a spear, while David's doing his lyre playing in the middle of the king's court. Which isn't fun.
Crazy.
I know. Crazy. I was crazy once. They locked me in a room. A rubber room. The rubber room with rats. And rats drive me crazy.
Sorry, I'm in a staring contest with your dog.
I think you will lose, to be honest.
Nope, she looked at my foot. I win.
Well, also, she did not know that you were having a staring contest with her.
That point is to be overlooked.
If Prim knew and had the conscious ability to understand what a staring contest was, I'm pretty sure she would beat you.
I'm pretty sure I would win.
She has the attention.
How many hours?
I haven't tested that.
I was on a live stream and people watched me for like a solid 30 minutes and I didn't blink.
That's not hours.
But okay, I was live streaming. Okay, what I'm saying is 30 minutes can be extended, like long, like whatever. I have a really good time at staring at things. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm really good at it.
Okay.
I would go live like almost every day for a solid half of a year, for hours, just staring blankly because I was doing this. Wow, look at my ventriloquism. That's so amazing. And I would just do that without even blinking for hours. I'd blink like once or twice, and people would comment, "Dude, you should blink." I'm like, okay.
Well, dogs.
Stop blink.
Well, dogs are not meant to blink as much as humans.
I love how this is decorating really quickly. I caused it. Let's go.
So I think they would have a better chance.
She's supposed to do that?
Prim? No. Lay down. Granted, she wasn't licking her stitches. Yeah, my dog just got surgery to be fixed.
Wow, that is very important information.
So, that's why she has stitches. No, she is not. She did not get run over by a car or fall from a great height. Nope. It's just, she's not going to have puppies. Ever. So, yay. Less that I have to deal with. Perfect. But anyways. What?
Wasn't needed.
It was totally
You
needed.
know, you could just say no.
I didn't want to just say no. I didn't want to. So I didn't. Because I'm Tristen.
Nope.
Ha!
Yes, you can be Tristan, but you can't use that line like that.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. It's a new copyrighted phrase.
I'm about to treat this like a. Never mind. That's a very bad joke. I can't do.
Oh gosh.
Casually just turn off my mic and see what I was gonna say.
Oh well. We've recapped the book. Let's get back into what the book is talking about for the last 10 or so chapters. Is that good with you?
Sure.
Okay. Yes. So we left off at chapter 20. And this is going to be the beginning of the last section of David's journey before he becomes king. Now, David has risen in honor throughout the nation. He has been seen as stealing Saul's throne by Saul. And now David is going to go on the run for a long time before he's actually able to become king of Israel as he was anointed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So in chapter 20, Jonathan is coming to David and wanting to see if David will come to a festival, a new moon festival. And David is letting Jonathan in on what has been going on between him and Jonathan's father, Saul. And Saul's been trying to kill him. David tells Jonathan that, and Jonathan is like, but my father shouldn't be killing his best guy in his entire army, someone who's gained his trust and whatever.
Isn't he worried that he's going to be overthrown?
Jonathan's not worried at all.
Not Jonathan, Saul.
Oh, Saul is, yes. Saul is worried, but Jonathan doesn't believe his father is at that state. Jonathan believes that his father still has some respect for David, and will not try to kill him on multiple occasions. But David is wise enough to know that because of his past experiences, he's not just going to go to the festival and have the potential to die at that festival because Saul has a fit. So Jonathan's like, okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to be at the festival because I'm the king's son, and you just don't show up, and then I'm going to give you a signal of how my dad reacts. And the signal is that Jonathan's going to shoot a few arrows out into a field, and he has a servant with him. And the servant is going to go and try to find the arrows that Jonathan shoots. Jonathan says they are on this side of you, meaning they are between the servant and Jonathan. Then that means to David, who would be listening close by, that means to David that he is safe to come back to the palace. If Jonathan says, I believe the arrows are beyond you, to his servant, that means David should flee. That he should get out of there. He is not safe. So Jonathan goes to the New Moon Festival.
And he says, I think the arrows are beyond you.
Hold on. Gotta listen to what happens at the festival. So at the festival, Jonathan goes in and sits down, and Saul notices that David doesn't come in. Well, for the first day, he's like, okay, maybe David's unclean, ceremonially unclean, so he didn't come in today. Okay, that makes sense. That's gotta be it. The next day, David doesn't come in. Now Saul's a little bit more perturbed, and he asks his own son why David hadn't come in, and Jonathan tells him a practiced answer. An untruthful but practiced answer. Of David asking permission to go to his family to do the festival with his family.
Mm-hmm.
And Saul is angry that his own son seems to be working with David, his supposed enemy. And so Saul actually tries to kill his own son with, guess what he tries to kill his own son with?
A sword.
Nope.
A piece of glass.
Nope.
A string.
Nope.
A rope.
Nope. What has he been
throwing
trying?
him out a window.
What has Saul been trying to kill David with this entire time?
A liar.
No, a spear, bro.
Oh. I'll get there eventually.
Yeah. So Saul's favorite weapon is a spear at this point. You gotta understand this.
He's trying to stab him with a marshmallow. Got it.
So he tries to kill his own son with a spear, which is insane. Because Jonathan has been doing such great things for his own father.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan, I believe, is his firstborn, if I'm not mistaken. And he's trying to kill his firstborn son.
That's no bueno.
Yeah, that's really not good. Showing how bad Saul has degraded.
Yeah.
And so Saul wants to kill David. Jonathan sees that. And so he gives the signal to the servant that, yes, you were correct, the arrows are beyond you. And so David hears that. The servant is sent back into the city, and David comes out, falls to his knees, bows 3 times, and starts weeping. And Jonathan and David are very sad because they're lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm.
They've been friends for a long time, and now Saul is forcing David to have to flee for his life, and they may have to be on opposite sides.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't have the same relationship that they used to. And they are both very understanding of the fact that God's will is going to happen no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Like later in the chapters that you see Jonathan's responses that he is understandable of David becoming the next king, and he's okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan wants to be like the second in command to David because he sees how good of a leader David is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really good friend, to see God's will in your life and not be jealous.
Or be offended by it and want to like overthrow everything and throw it out the window because it's not going the way he wanted it to go.
Right? And Jonathan may have seen the state of his father and been like, maybe I don't want the seat of king.
Yeah.
Like, if someone else is anointed to become the king, they have a lot more responsibility.
Yeah.
So if they are anointed to do that, I'm not going to try and take it away from them because it can corrupt someone if they are not God's chosen.
Yeah, and or kind of unbalance something that's not in your like technically power to control.
Right. Then we get to chapter 21. And David is now fleeing to a city called Nob.
K-N-O-B or N-O-B?
N-O-B. They are in the city of Nob, and in this city there are a few priests.
This must be really loud really quickly, just a second.
This must be like a city of refuge or something. Nob is.
Who are we refugeing?
City of refuge. If you remember in, I think it's Exodus, they had, no, it was Deuteronomy and Joshua, where they set aside certain cities to be cities of refuge that the Levites would hold.
Okay.
And these would be cities that people who committed an murder of accident or mistake would be able to flee to, so then they wouldn't get killed by the victim's family.
I think we discussed that like in one of the last episodes.
Yes. So Nob, I believe, is one of those. So there's quite a few priests there, and one priest in particular, his name is Ahimelech.
Can you say particular?
Particular.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Ahimelech, and David comes to Ahimelech asking for some form of food and supplies, and Ahimelech's like, we don't have anything except bread of presence. That's it.
Oof.
And the bread of presence is something that is consecrated to God in a temple, and it's pretty much holy bread. Think of it that way. It's holy bread. So he tells David that you can only eat it if you haven't slept with your wife or woman in the past few days. Whatever. You yourself are clean, ceremonially clean. You will be able to eat the ceremonially clean bread.
You mean ceremonially clean?
Yes. What he said. David replies, yep, we've been at war. They are not going to be doing anything. So Ahimelech gives him the bread, and then David asks, do you have any weapons whatsoever? Because David fled.
He's got a spear.
David doesn't even have a spear.
He's got a sword.
He doesn't even have a sword.
He doesn't have Goliath's sword?
Nope. Not yet.
Oh.
Because Ahimelech has Goliath's sword.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Not really. Because Ahimelech says, we have Goliath's sword. You can take it.
You want it?
David's
takes the cloth off of it, like, I got this.
And David's like, yes, there's nothing like it. I'll take it.
Boom. Roasted.
And now he has Goliath's sword.
Yay!
Woohoo! So he has food, he has a sword, he's on his way to flee Saul and hopefully be safe somewhere.
I think he could go hide in a cave with a bunch of people.
Well, first, before that, he gets to Gath. And Gath is a city that's part of the Philistines.
Okay.
Philistines have been the Israelites' enemies for centuries.
Okay.
And the people of Gath are saying, when David arrives, that, isn't this the guy in the song that says Saul kills his thousands, but David has killed his tens of thousands? Why would we let him in?
Because he's nice.
Well, King Achish sees David, and David is actually acting crazy. He's acting nuts on purpose. Just so that the people don't actually try to kill him or something. Because then they don't believe he is the man that he used to be or whatever. So he's acting crazy. He's literally foaming at the mouth in acting.
I can do that.
I'd rather not have a demonstration.
You just add a bunch of air to whatever saliva you have, and then you let it drool out of your face hole.
I gotcha.
It's kind of gross.
So after Gath, David leaves Gath and takes a refuge in a cave.
Bum, bum, bum.
And a few people hear about this, namely his family, brothers, mother, father. They join him.
Mm-hmm.
And it says in Scripture in chapter 22, verse 2, in addition, every man who is desperate, in debt, or discontented rallied around him, and he became their leader. About 400 men were with him. So he had 400 men and his family all in the caves of Adullam.
It's funny because, well, what's it called? In the depicting of it in the Young David movie, they're already in the cave when he gets there.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
It's possible it could have happened that way. There might have been like some guys already in the caves, because if they were desperate or in debt, they may have been trying to run away instead of being slaves because they were in debt.
Yeah, when he goes in there, he finds his family in there.
Oh, interesting.
Rather than like them coming in after. Like how this is it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in the scriptures it says, when David's brothers and his father's whole family heard that David was in the cave of Adullam, they went down and joined him. So,
yeah, it was the other way around in the movie.
Yeah. So this is why you need to read the scripture and study it yourself, because you can't take everything everybody says and take it as truth when it comes to scripture.
Yes, Mom.
Hey, I'm just saying, this is a tagline. This is a tagline that we have for ourselves, is that do your own study.
Yeah, take your own thoughts on it, kind of.
Right? So, Saul has heard from his informants that David has gone to the city of Nob, and specifically one guy, Doeg, the Edomite.
A dog?
Doeg.
Dog.
No, Doeg. Doeg.
Dog.
Doeg.
Dog.
Doeg.
Dog.
Whatever. This guy informs Saul of what happened with the priests, that the priests had given David bread and given David the sword. And so Saul is mad, as he always is, and runs off to the city of Nob and confronts Ahimelech.
Mm-hmm.
And Ahimelech's like, we have served your servant David before. Why would this time be any different?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this doesn't make any sense. And Saul thinks that, again, they are conspiring against him. So he tells his men, slaughter every one of these priests.
It's a little aggressive, but okay.
None of the king's men do that. They're like, no, that's wrong. That's terrible.
That's a little overbearing.
You know who does decide to take up a sword, though? Doeg. Doeg.
But David holds a sword, too.
Well, Doeg took up a sword against the priests.
Oh, okay.
Doeg did what the king told him to do, and he killed 85 priests, and then also struck down the entire city of Nob, along with men, women, children, infants, oxen, donkeys, and sheep.
That guy should be fired.
Yeah, Doeg is bad news.
He should be a bad dog.
Yes. One guy was able to escape.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Abiathar. I'm going to say Abiathar.
Okay.
Abiathar is the son of Ahimelech. So he is still part of the priestly line, but the last survivor of that priestly line of Ahimelech.
Okay.
And he flees off to David. And David learns that Doeg was actually there when David had arrived. And he had seen that and knew that Doeg was going to respond back to Saul.
Mm-hmm.
And so David takes the blame of the death of all those priests on himself. And he says that Abiathar can stay with them and that I will protect you. Saul wants both of us dead. We need to stick together. Then a city is getting attacked. The city is called Keilah. Keilah is getting raided by Philistines. Philistines are very commonly attacking the Israelites. All the time.
For what purpose?
Because they're enemies. They're sworn enemies.
Oh.
They have different gods. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dagon, the god of the Philistines, is very much about warfare. And so, of course, the Philistines are going to be like, all right, we have enemies. We kill them. All the time.
Seems a bit excessive, but
So Keilah is getting attacked along with the threshing floors, which threshing floors. Anyways, threshing floors are areas in fields where they take the wheat and they beat the wheat in order to get the grain out of the top of the stalks. That's basically what it is. So they're raiding the threshing floor, so they're taking all of the goods from the fields that have already been prepared and prepped. So David hears about this, and he asks God if he should attack the Philistines, and God says yes. Which is very good that he asked God this, because he only has 400 men. He's listening to God. He's inquiring of God for anything else, which is a trait that Saul didn't have very well. And so he goes to Keilah, and he fights against the Philistines, inflicting heavy losses, and the Philistines leave, and David wins. Hooray! Saul hears of this and tries to get troops together and head off to Keilah.
Yeah. When you first said it, I thought that, and then for some reason I had fireballs stuck in my head.
That's funny. So Keilah is going to be surrounded by Saul's troops because they are holding David and his men.
Mm-hmm.
David inquires of God if he should stay in the city or if he should leave. First he asks, is Saul coming after me and going to besiege the city? God tells him yes.
Mm-hmm.
He asks a second question, are the people of Keilah going to turn me over to Saul? God says yes. So David goes off. He now has about 600 men.
Mm-hmm.
And that number will stay about the same throughout the rest of these chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So he has about 600 men, and they go into the hill country of Ziph. Now, the Ziph are really good informants of Saul.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, because we will hear their names a few times. The Ziphites. You'll hear Ziphites a couple of times. So Saul continued searching for him, knowing that he's nearby.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow Jonathan was able to communicate with David, and they ended up meeting again.
Mm-hmm.
They actually renewed their covenant. And Jonathan says to David, and this is really cool, chapter 23, verse 17, he says, don't be afraid, for my father Saul will never lay a hand on you. You yourself will be king over Israel, and I'll be your second in command.
Mm-hmm.
Even my father knows it is true. Then the two of them made a covenant in the Lord's presence. Afterwards, David remained in Horish while Jonathan went home. So Jonathan knows that he will not take the throne, and he's okay with it. He renews a covenant with David, showing his strength of relationship with him.
Yeah. I feel like if I was in that position, I probably would take the route Jonathan was taking, just because, like, that seems like too much stress.
Like, he's seen the example of his father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, that doesn't seem right for me.
I wouldn't want to go crazy.
Right? So, the Ziphites tell Saul exactly where David is.
Mm-hmm.
And so Saul chases after David, and they're running through the hill country, and they come to this mountain. And David's men end up going around one side of the mountain, and Saul and his men go around the other side of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them knowing exactly where each other are.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going around this mountain, and they're going to meet at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're about to combine their forces and fight against each other when Saul gets a message that some Philistines are attacking Israel. And Saul's like, well, fine. And he runs off and goes off to fight the Philistines. So David is safe. He ends up going off to another city called En-Gedi. En-Gedi is where David seems to stay for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Saul gets told, again, where David is.
Mm-hmm.
So David continues to run off and go off to the rocks of wild goats, is what it says.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a cave, and David and his men are sitting in there, and Saul needs to
Take a break or take a nap.
do some business.
Sets guards outside, and as he's napping, David comes up behind him,
He's not napping.
thinking,
He's not thinking.
pondering.
No, he's literally using the bathroom.
Either way, utilizing the latrine. And as David sees him, he catches up behind him, chops off his corner of his coat or his cape to prove that he had the opportunity while his back was against him. And he comes out and says, look, I could have got you, but I didn't. I spared your life.
Mm-hmm. And his men had actually tried to convince him to kill Saul, saying that the Lord has handed Saul into your hands. And so David did all that Ezra said David did. And Saul is very sorry for ever pursuing David. And the king heads back home because he's like, man, I messed up. And David ends up going back to the stronghold of En-Gedi. Then, chapter 25. the first verse tells us that Samuel died. Like, literally, that's the first 2 words of chapter 25. Samuel died. Just like the great prophet, the last judge of Israel, is gone.
That is very unfortunate.
And all Israel assembled to mourn for him. And they buried him by his house in Ramah. And David then went down to the wilderness of Paran. So Samuel dying affected all of Israel.
Yes.
So Samuel's reputation and his obedience to the Lord was very effective.
Mhm.
Was very good.
Mhm.
So if you ever want to live your life well, live your life like Samuel, because he's a great example. Very obedient, very good leader, very close to God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a small snippet, but it affects all of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll hear a little bit more about the details of and the effects of Samuel's death in a later chapter.
Mm-hmm.
David continues on in his journey, and there's a man named Nabal, and he had business in the land of Carmel,
Mm-hmm.
and he was married. His wife's name is Abigail.
Mm-hmm.
And Nabal was harsh and evil with his dealings, while the scriptures say that Abigail was intelligent and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Contrasting the two of them together.
Mm-hmm.
How did they get married? I don't know. Probably arranged, I would think. Possibly an arranged marriage.
This seems most likely.
Yeah.
Most of the likelies.
Right? So David goes to Nabal and tells him, hey, so we have been protecting your shepherds and your herdsmen, and we've been keeping them safe at night and during the day, making sure that none of your animals are taken or whatever. We've been a wall for them, making sure that everyone's protected. Would you be able to give us some supplies, because we have been nice to you, we need some stuff, can you help us out? And Nabal, because of his dealings and stuff, he's like, no, I'm not giving you anything. Not even the hairs off my chin. He decides to give them absolutely nothing and basically insults them. Slaps them in their face, spits on their shoe, however you want to take it. And David's men ended up going back to David and reporting to David what Nabal had said. David's furious. So he takes all 600 of his men. Well, actually, no. He takes 400 men, leaves 200 behind him with his supplies.
600 men.
That is actually interesting. He leaves 200 men behind to guard his supplies. That will be an important detail later, because that happens again in a later thing, where he takes 400, leaves 200 behind with supplies. That's just a common thing that he does.
Okay.
And the 400 men and David are going to basically destroy Nabal and everything that he owns. Because Nabal was a terrible human being. Abigail hears of this. She's like, well, no, we are not going to have this go down like this. So she grabs bread, she grabs wine, sheep, grain, raisins, pressed figs, takes them on a bunch of donkeys, and leads them to David. Sends out the supplies first, then she will come up the rear. Because if you send up the supplies, then you are sending the gift first before the messenger, so that David will see the supplies and have a better mindset when the message is received. Just common courtesy.
Fair.
David receives all the stuff, and Abigail pleads to David, please do not kill everybody. Please do not destroy everything. I am sorry for my husband's actions. I am sorry that he disrespected you. That is not what we should have done. I honor you. You are very thanked for all your protection and all that. Please do not be vengeful to your servant.
Mhm.
And David's like, thank you. If you hadn't come, I would have slaughtered everyone. And I would have been avenging myself by my own hand. Because he sees that, like, taking vengeance of his own hand is kind of similar to Saul. And so he's like, thank you, Abigail. And so Abigail doesn't tell her husband when she gets back home. And David heads off to where he needs to be. And Nabal is having a feast. He's drunk. He's happy. Abigail doesn't tell.
Happy, fat, and sassy.
The next morning, Nabal sobers up, and then Abigail tells him what happened. He actually has a seizure and became paralyzed after receiving the news. Then it says in chapter 25, verse 38, after about 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal dead. David hears of this, and he's like thankful to the Lord for taking out vengeance of the sin by the Lord's hands, not David's hands. So the Lord is the only one that's able to judge people fairly for their actions. Well, David also knows that Abigail is now widowed. So he calls for her and wants to marry her. So she accepts and gets accompanied by her female servants, goes to David, and they end up getting married. So David now has 2 wives. It also says that David married Ahinoam from Jezreel. Don't get much about Ahinoam from the Bible. Just, she is one of David's wives.
How many wives did David end up having? 4.
Well, currently David has 3 now, until verse 44.
Then he has 4.
No, then he only has 2.
Oh, one dies.
Nope. Verse 44. But Saul gave his daughter Mithshal. Yeah. Mithshal.
What are we looking at?
Mithshal. David's wife to Palti, son of Laish, who was from Galim. So Saul gave his daughter, who made David his son-in-law, to another man. So now David only has 2 wives. I think it's Miha. I had it right the first time. Miha. Micha.
Are you okay?
I'm trying to pronounce it correct.
Khal.
Micha.
Michal.
Micha.
Khal.
Micha.
Michal. You're like, sounding like you're falling over.
Well, I don't know how to do that sound properly.
Michal.
So now David only has 2 wives instead of having 3.
So much strain.
Saul hears again of where David's at. Because of the Ziphites. Those darn Ziphites. So David goes somewhere else and keeps trying to run away. And Saul ends up camping somewhere in the middle of the night and falls asleep, him and his entire army. Abner, Saul's general, is with him. Abner and David's general Joab will be in conflict later in 2 Samuel. And David asks the people of Israel, who will go with me into the camp?
Who will?
Abishai, son of Zeruiah. Anyways.
Where are you looking now?
Zariah. Yeah. Cousin to Joab, by the way. It's either cousin or brother. One of the two. They're related. Not Abner. Joab. Joab and Abishai are related. Abishai says, I'll go with you. And so David and Abishai go into Saul's camp, and everybody's asleep. Like, nobody's stirring whatsoever. They might have tripped over a pot. Nobody cares. They're asleep. And it says that the Lord actually put them into a deep sleep. So this was planned by the Lord for this to happen.
Okay.
They get to Saul's tent. They've already been to Abner, seeing that Abner is completely asleep and not doing his job. And goes over to Saul. Of course, Abishai is like, Saul's here. We can kill him. I have a spear, and I can run him through once. I won't even have to strike him twice before he's dead. And David's like, no. We will not do that.
You'll strike him 3 times.
We will not kill the Lord's anointed. But take the water jug and take Saul's spear. So they do that.
Finally, they took a spear. Someone learned.
Right? Isn't that funny? They finally took the weapon of Saul's favorite. And they go up onto a hill a safe distance away. And David calls out, Abner, are you not going to answer? And Abner's like, what? And then David basically calls Abner out, saying like, you were sleeping, as well as all of your men. And we were able to enter your camp, get close to the king, and steal his possessions. You have failed your job. Then David acknowledges the king, says, look, we again had an opportunity to kill you.
Yes.
We have your things. We will leave them here so that someone can retrieve them. Why are you chasing us? And Saul responds, I have sinned. Come back, my son David. I will never harm you again. Please, because today you considered my life precious. I've been a fool. I have committed a grave error. And David's basically kind of brushes off the request to come back with him a little bit by saying, I'm going to leave this spear here. The Lord blesses those who are righteous and don't lift their hand against the anointed. And basically, in a roundabout way, shows that he's not going with Saul, but he's not going to attack Saul. And so Saul goes back home, and David goes back to his men. And David ends up going to a city which we have already been to before. It's called Gath.
Dun, dun, dun.
David went there alone, and now he's there with 600 men.
600 men.
600 men, and Achish, the king, who's still the king from when David was crazy in the middle of the city, takes a liking to David. And what David does is that he tells Achish of all the stuff that's happened between him and Saul, and asks for refuge, and Achish is like, sure, do that.
I'll give you a place to have.
Somewhere in his journey, David does drop off his parents at the king of Moab, saying, here, please keep track of them, please take care of them. And the king of Moab does. He takes care of David's parents. And so David's just with his men and his 2 wives. And David goes out on raids and attacks the Amalekites, attacks the Jeshurites and the Gerzites, who are all enemies of Israel. But he comes back to the king, telling the king that he attacked different pieces of Israelite land. Basically lying to the king's face so as to stay within his favor, but also not be attacked by his own people.
Yeah.
And basically, David had the custom of whoever he attacked, he destroyed everything and everyone. except like animals, food, gold, like metals or whatever. Every human was dead, so that none would tell King Achish what actually happened. So David stayed within the territory. Now we come back to Saul. Saul is about to fight against the Philistines again. David is with Achish, and Achish is going out to war against King Saul. And Achish wants to bring David, because David's been supposedly a really great warrior. He'd be a great help in the war. He appears to be an enemy of Israelites. Enemy of my enemy is my friend, sort of thing. And so they all go together, and the 600 men are bodyguards to Achish and his royal guard. Like, they're all bodyguards. Saul, it says, has killed... Wait, hold on. Let's go to verse 3. In verse 3 of chapter 28, it says, "By this time Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah, his city. And Saul had removed the mediums and spiritists from the land." So he had done the job of cleansing the land of, like, demonic, satanic stuff. Then it records that the Philistines came together, they all gathered together, and Saul saw them. Saul gets scared. He tries to come into contact with God, but nothing's working. Like, he pulls out, he tries to ask God for a dream, he tries to pull out a thing called the Urim, which I don't even know what the Urim is. We may look that up and figure out what that is.
How do you spell that?
Urim.
Sacred objects used by high priests in ancient Israel to discern divine will, often acting as a yes or no, guilty, innocent oracle. Kept in the breastplate of of the ephod, they were used for critical decisions such as times of war.
Okay. And they are generally described as stones, lots, or objects placed within the pouch of the high priest's breastplate. So okay. So the Urim and Thummim. Thummim was the comparison together. So those were things that they basically threw on the ground, and the Lord would basically tell them his decision through the objects that they threw. They tried everything. Dreams, the casting of lots, which is used as a phrase for using the Urim and the Thummim. And they also tried to use the prophets that they had with them. Nobody could tell Saul what the Lord was saying. The Lord wasn't speaking. So Saul ends up thinking, well, this is a last resort. He tells his men to find him a medium. He just killed all of them throughout the land. And he wants to find one of them? This guy has gone super far.
He has got the audacity.
The audacity. And his servants tell him there's a woman close by at Endor. Not the planet. In Star Wars, this is a city in Israel. Okay? The king disguises himself in different clothes and takes a couple of servants with him, and they go to this woman. And Saul's like, I will not let anything bad happen to you. Promise. Because the woman is like, Saul's killed me. My sisters or whatever she's been in. Like, Saul's killed us. And Saul's like, nothing bad will happen to you. She doesn't know he's Saul at this point. Then Saul says, I want you to bring up the spirit of Samuel. Once the woman saw Samuel and his appearance, the woman's like, you're Saul. You're gonna kill me. And Saul's like, no, 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 no.
Not yet.
I'm not going to kill you. And so she continues doing whatever she does to bring up the spirit of Samuel, which is an insane thought.
Seems dark.
It is a really dark thing, but also at the same time, it's Samuel. Like, how is she able to do that with Samuel?
Sounds like necromancy.
I guess essentially, yeah, it is.
That's bad.
Yeah, that is bad. Saul, you got you.
Bad.
Yeah, Saul, you got yourself in some bad juju. And so Samuel's like, why'd you summon me? And Saul's like, the Lord has not talked to me. I'm in serious trouble. I had no other means of doing it. And Samuel's like, well, here's why.
As a ghost?
Yep, as a spirit.
What?
Yep. How's the spirit?
That seems a little dark.
It is. Like, Saul went to such drastic lengths because he was so scared that he went to a medium to do some satanic ritual thing to raise up a spirit from the dead. To talk to it.
How? If someone was in line, like, with God's morals and stuff, why would they be able to be pulled from somewhere demonic?
Well, this also happened before the cross.
Okay,
And it's weird of where the souls were, or the spirits of people were.
Mm-hmm.
So it may have something to do with that because it's a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't have salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. I don't want to get into the weeds about it because I don't really know what happened. We may never know how it happened until we're in heaven. But it happened. That's all we know. And so Samuel tells him, yeah, the reason why the Lord is not talking to you is that you are going to die to the Philistines.
Mm-hmm.
You and your sons.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are going to die. And David will be king over your land, as I told you.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow will be your death day.
Mm-hmm.
Saul falls flat to the ground. He was terrified. And he was also weak because he had not eaten or drank anything all day and all night. It tells you how much fear he had of what was to come.
Your dog hit the camera and it wobbled.
Weeble wobble. And the medium is still trying to plead for her life.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I have obeyed you. I've done everything. She calls herself the king's servant. And she even says, let me give you some food and some water because you are weak. You need something. And his men are even trying to convince him, please, eat. Do something. So the woman goes out. She slaughters a fattened calf. Gets some bread and makes it. She makes it unleavened, which is an interesting fact because Hebrews are meant to eat unleavened bread.
Mm-hmm.
And she served it to Saul and his servants, and they ate. Afterward, they got up and left that night. Who knows what happened to that medium afterwards? That may have been the last straw for her to leave her practice altogether, because it was Samuel that happened, and who knows what else she saw or whatever. That may have been the last straw. We never hear of that medium again.
Why is it called a medium?
The middle ground between the natural and the supernatural. That's why they are called mediums.
So that's why I know I want to come together.
Correct. So, generally, in that sense, they are mediums between the natural and the evil side of the supernatural.
Obviously.
Generally. Jesus is our medium or mediator.
I would say he's our mediator.
Yeah. He's our mediator. He's the one that stands between us and God and being able for us to communicate to God. Because he earned that right. Not because he tried to take it by some unearthly power.
Mm-hmm.
He earned it.
Mm-hmm. He conquered the death.
Mm-hmm. So, before the battle actually happens, the day it happens, the Philistine commanders are not super happy that David is with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they remember the song of Saul kills his thousands
Mm-hmm.
and David kills his 10,000s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that song, it's a simple song, but man, it caused quite the effect.
And it rocked him.
And the Philistines were like, nope, we don't want him with us. Why would we bring David, an Israelite, into battle against other Israelites just so that he could turn against us?
Mm-hmm.
Stupid, in their opinion. And Achish is like, David, I see you as an honorable man. I would have gladly taken you with us, but we're not going to take you there. My commanders are having problems. Please, our apologies, whatever. And David and his men go off. And Achish is trying to be very honorable to David.
Mm-hmm.
And David and his men return back to a city called Ziklag, which Ziklag was a city that Achish had given him and his men and all of their families to stay in, so that they would be protected and be able to grow their families and property and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, David and his men return back to Ziklag, and the Amalekites, a different enemy of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
has raided the city, killed no one,
Mm-hmm.
and taken everything with them.
Mm-hmm.
David is exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
He's downtrodden. His men are so mad at him for going on this expedition with the Philistines and leaving their wives and their children unprotected
Mm-hmm.
that they want to stone him. They want him dead.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, David still had a little bit of confidence in God left.
Mm-hmm.
Because he told Abiathar, bring me the ephod.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, let's consult God about this. So they ask, should we pursue the raiders? Can we overtake them? And God says, yes, go and get them. Rescue your people.
Mm-hmm.
So David, again, takes his 600 men and run after the raiders. 200 men get really super exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
They stay behind, again, with the supplies. Something that has happened earlier.
Mhm.
And they all head off after the Amalekites. And they find this Egyptian servant. He has not had water or food for 3 days and 3 nights.
Mhm.
And they revive him with some bread and some water and some raisins and all that. And the Egyptian tells David and his men everything that they need to know about where the guys are at.
Mhm.
And David's like, take us there. And the Egyptian's like, no, please don't.
I don't want to die.
I don't want to be turned over to my master.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say that David had a response,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm pretty sure he was going. He did say something to the likes of, we won't let your masters harm you. We won't do anything.
Gotta keep him protected.
Mm-hmm. So the servant leads them to the Amalekites, and the Amalekites are just having a blast. They basically have a celebration feast. We raided Ziklag, the city of the great David.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we took all the men, women, and children without having to kill anybody. This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And David decided, you know what, we're going to kill them at twilight. And they slaughtered them from twilight until the evening of the next day. So an entire day.
Oof.
They were slaughtering the Amalekites. None of them escaped except 400 young men who got on camels and fled.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how many Amalekites were there originally, but there had to be like thousands at least. Tens of thousands maybe. And David recovered everything, including his own 2 wives.
Wow.
sons, daughters, all the plunder the Amalekites had taken, among all the stuff that the Amalekites were carrying. Who knows? This may have been a raiding party that went along to multiple different cities and multiple different towns and took a lot of the goods. Because they say this is David's plunder, and later it says that David gave gifts of the plunder to multiple cities within Israel. So there was probably more than just the stuff that was taken from Ziklag. David goes back to the 200 men who were carrying the supplies, and some of the other men in the 400 were like, they don't deserve any of the plunder. They can have their families, of course, but they shouldn't get any of the plunder. They never fought with us. They didn't fight day and night for 24 hours. And David's like, no, these men were just as essential as you were. They will receive their share just as much as you do. And the 200 men ended up getting their share. And it says that in verse 25 in chapter 30, and it has been so from that day forward. David established this policy as a law and an ordinance for Israel, and it continues to this very day. So the importance of people guarding supplies and the camp was just as important as those who actually fought the bad guys. And David spread out the plunder of the Lord's enemies to multiple different cities, some being Bethel, Ramoth, Rakal, the Kenites, Hormah, Borashan, and Athakah, and Hebron, and every place that he and his men had roamed. So basically, they were thanking all of these cities for housing them, stuff saying, we are with you, thank you for protecting us and keeping us safe. The final chapter of 1 Samuel is the end of Saul. The Philistines fought against Israel. Actually, I'll just read chapter 31.
Okay.
Because we can. The Philistines fought against Israel, and Israel's men fled from them. Many were killed on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines overtook Saul and his sons and killed his sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. When the battle intensified against Saul, the archers caught up with him and severely wounded him. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and run through with it, or these uncircumcised men will come and run me through and torture me." But his armor-bearer would not do it because he was terrified. Then Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his own sword and died with him.
Oof.
So on that day, Saul died together with his 3 sons, his armor-bearer, and all his men. When the men of Israel on the other side of the valley and on the other side of the Jordan saw that the Israel's men had run away and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned the cities and fled. So the Philistines came and settled in them. The next day when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his 3 sons dead on Mount Gilboa. They cut off Saul's head, stripped off his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines to spread the good news in the temples of their idols and among the people. Then they put his armor in the temple of the Ashtoreths and hung his body on the wall of Beth-shan. When the residents of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the brave men set out, journeyed all night, and retrieved the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth-shan. When they arrived at Jabesh, they burned the bodies there. Afterward, they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree in Jabesh and fasted 7 days.
Wow.
So Saul meets an untimely end by his own hand. So is his armor-bearer, which his armor-bearer position was originally filled by David years ago. And this, I think, was a blessing by God to have David and his men sent away from the Philistines. One, so that, at Ziklag, they could retrieve their families and whatever. But also, 2, so that they weren't fighting and killing Israelites. So that David never had the opportunity to take Saul's life into his own hand ever again. And also, then David wouldn't have to have the conflict of seeing Saul dead and then fighting against the Philistines in the land. Like, it would be a really weird situation. Like, it was a blessing of God to remove David from that situation, to limit the confusion, and also to have Saul die in the way that Saul should. And Saul died by his own hand. Like, he was done with everything. He thought he didn't want to be tortured by the Philistines. And he knew he was going to be tortured because he had killed so many Philistines and fought against them for years and won so many battles. And his line ends today in this day of battle. His 3 sons, Jonathan among them, which is really sad that Jonathan was caught in the crossfire between Saul and David. And the Philistines end up taking Saul, and they do parade Saul around the cities. Like, this is the man who has tortured us for years, and now he is finally dead. We have won today. And they put his armor in the temple of Ashtoreth. They put his armor in a place of false gods and idols. And they hung his body on the wall. His headless body, mind you.
It seems like they do a lot of that. Decapitating of people.
Yeah. And Jabesh Gilead, the first city that Saul ever fought for, hears that Saul is being ridiculed among the entire nation of Philistines, risk their own lives going into enemy territory to bring their king and his son's bodies back in order to be buried honorably. It came full circle for Jabesh Gilead. They were the first city to see Saul as the true king of Israel. And they were the last city to give Saul the honor that he deserved. And at the end of this book, it's really sad to see how Saul's jealousy and his disobedience to God brought him to such a depressing end. Because, like, when you're a king, honor is such a big thing, as well as your bloodline. Having his bloodline die and seeing that he would be terribly dishonored by the Philistines if he were alive, he took his own life. And he was at such a depressed, fearful, possibly angry stage in his life. And he was just done. And we don't want to fall into that. I think part of Saul's problem with it was definitely his pride. Thinking that because he was the anointed king, he could do whatever he wanted. He had gotten all these victories under God's power. And all that pride he relied on too much, leading to his rebellion against God. And then the pride was all he had. He no longer had Samuel. He no longer had God. Just him and his pride. And for us, pride can be just as deadly.
That's a good summary. Pride leads to the downfall.
And throughout David running away from Saul, we can see how much David contrasts with Saul. Seeing how David is not trying to use fear to get what he wants. Not trying to use his power to get what he wants. But listening to the Lord, being obedient to what the Lord says, and being very good at asking the right questions of God. and he's also very good about being fair with his men. Saul was not very fair when it came to the news that was spread about, like, Jonathan would lead people into battle against the Philistines, but Saul wanted the people to know that it was Saul who led the men into battle. David didn't do that. Like, you see his treatment of his men, like, he wanted every single man to be treated fairly. He wanted the ones guarding the supplies to get as much out of the battle as the ones who actually fought in the battle. Like, he wanted everything to be fair. And he took on the responsibility whenever something bad happened because of what he did. For example, the priests being killed by Saul. He took responsibility on that and took Abiathar, the priest, in and protected him because he knew that it was his fault. He took responsibility. And when Saul did not, when he failed to wait for Samuel to build the sacrifice, he laid the responsibility on his own men when it came to keeping the cattle and the sheep from the Amalekites when he was supposed to destroy it all. He put it on his men that it was their responsibility instead of his own, even though he was king. And so you can see the contrast between the two men throughout the whole book of 1 Samuel and how David seemed to excel where Saul fell short.
Yep.
So now at this point, Saul is now no longer king, but we'll see in the next book of what actually happens with David and how he actually does become king and eventually what he does during his reign. And we'll see the rise of David as well as some of his pitfalls. Like, David was not a perfect man by any means. But he was a much better king than Saul was because of David's obedience to God.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And that's all the time we have time for.
That's very true. Very true. But yeah.
All right, you gotta pray.
I gotta pray.
Yep.
All right. Lord God, I pray that we don't fall into pride. I pray that we are obedient to your leading and obedient to your will, as well as being submissive to listening, to asking you questions about what we should do, God. I pray that after reading and listening to the story of David and Saul, that we will learn from both of their stories and both of their actions, and we will live our lives more in step with you, and for us to lead others properly and fairly. I pray that we are able to take responsibility for our actions and we live our lives as humble people. I pray that for anyone out there who is having a rough day, God, that you give them peace and you give them joy, and you I pray that they find purpose in their life and that you will show them that you will sustain them all of their days. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for joining us on The Basement.
The basement.
And we will see you next time.
Ciao.